Hiya! Welcome! So I wanted to do a video today that was different from the norm here on this channel, to kind of just have a sit down and a bit of a, I don't want to say a rant, because I don't think I will be ranting, but we'll see, but just to express some opinions really about record collecting and just one or two issues that in my mind have cropped up, and I've not really seen anyone else talk about it or maybe make criticisms about the things that I'm about to talk about, but perhaps there has been other people and they're just not channels that I've personally come across yet. This is something that I've been thinking about for quite some time now, and it came to the forefront of my mind again today when I watched the latest video from a fellow British record collector and vinyl community video maker, Martin Harris. Great channel, by the way. In fact, I'll leave a link for him at the top of the description, just as a recommendation really, although I'm sure a lot of you will know of Martin. He does his monthly vinyl updates, and he updates what CDs and DVDs and things he's bought every so often as well. The video he put up today, and a particular album or three versions of the album that he'd bought, got me thinking about a couple of things, and I don't know, I just want to maybe get some stuff off my chest really. Martin, in his latest video, had he'd shown three different copies of, I think it was the new Taylor Swift album. I say new, apparently, and I don't really know anything about this. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. Don't mind a bit of her stuff, but I don't really follow her. I certainly don't collect her. But apparently it's not even really a new album. It's a re-recording of an old album due to some lawsuit thing in America. There'll be other videos, and Martin goes into a little bit more detail about it himself, but it's called Speak Now, I think. Martin, being the completist for many artists that he is, had bought all three different colour vinyl variants for this Taylor Swift new / re-recorded album, Speak Now. I will look up the albums actually, because I just want to see. I know he said he paid $41.99 each. I'm sorry if that's slightly wrong. There again, go to Martin's channel, look up his vinyl update for July, and you'll be able to see what he said. But I'll just put my glasses on for this as well. I'll go to HMV actually, because I remember getting a marketing email from them about a week or so back saying, oh, we've got all of the Taylor Swift catalogue back in stock. I'm sure that wasn't literally true. If I look up Taylor Swift here, and then go to the filter where I just filter into the vinyl records. In fact, no, I'll leave the filter off, because I think there's different variants of CDs as well. But yeah, first three things that come up here, I'll show these on screen actually without me having to hold my iPad up, are the three different versions, the colour variants of Speak Now. The lilac marbled, the violet marbled, and the orchid marbled. And HMV's price, and this is just the site I decided to look at because I knew HMV would likely have all these in stock as of now, is £49.99 each. And yeah, okay, the 3-disc albums, you know, you get 3 LPs in there, and I believe there's bonus tracks and, you know, new material along with re-recorded stuff, but that's a lot of money. And then completists such as Martin Harris will get all three, and there'll be, I'm sure, major Swifties, as they're called, around the world, who you know, what need to get every single variant, every single format. The album is £20 on CD from HMV, by the way. I don't know if there's a different CD variant that I'm looking. There's a ton of CD variants for Taylor's last regular new album, Midnights. There's Mahogany, Jade Green, Blood Moon. To be fair, they're only $12.99 each. So yeah, the price of the vinyl is one thing. Now, if it was just one record, or one set, or maybe even two, where you get a standard black for those who aren't a fan for whatever reason of coloured vinyl, and then a different colour one. Fair enough. I mean, even that, if you're shopping at HMV, which is just purely an example, that's still nearly £100 you're spending on vinyl. But three different purpley coloured versions. When I saw that Martin had bought those, I thought, wow, you know, no judgment from me. It's a lot of money to spend on the same album multiple times. And, I mean, it doesn't really... It kind of pales into comparison to... it was about a month ago, maybe a little more, where Martin did a special video showing all the different formats of the Lottery Winners album that got to #1, because they've just released it on so many different formats. I can't remember exactly how many he showed, but I think ultimately it was about 30 something, and it was releasing it multiple times that got it, you know, to #1, because so many of the fans got behind the campaign. That, to me, it's not cheating. Well, I suppose it is cheating, really. I don't know if I like all this multi-formatting. As a collector, you know, in theory, I should be like, oh, well, it's nice to get a different variant and you can choose. You know, no one's got a gun to my head saying you must buy 3 different LPs or 2 CDs or the cassette or the digital download or whatever of the one album, where a lot of the time it's the exact same tracks. I know some versions have bonus stuff, like say these Taylor Swift albums here, as they split out over 3 LPs, 3 vinyl records. You know, there's going to be new stuff and additional stuff, even if it's not new. But it seems like a kind of cash grab to me, and I don't know, maybe the kind of old lefty in me just feels, you know, like, should we be pumping that much money into the record industry when all we need, if we're a fan of an album, if we like some music from somewhere, is one copy? Now, that's going to make me a hypocrite right away, because certain artists, as those of you who've watched my videos regularly will know, I've doubled up on. It's a practice I've only really been doing within the last year or so, to be honest. Started out with New Order. I'd only really collected them on CD up until a few years ago, and then I did start buying the definitive edition vinyl box sets, which have loads of extras in them anyway. It's not just that I was getting the album again on CD, but vinyl too, and then you had DVDs and bonus CDs and books in them and things like that. And then Rammstein, I've done similar for them as well, and I do own every Rammstein album twice now, on CD and vinyl. If you're a Taylor Swift fan and you're a real completist, and you know you want the Lilac edition as well as the Violet edition and the Orchid edition, that's £150 at least on HMV. Martin, he paid $42.99 each, and my maths isn't good enough to do the sums in my head. It's going to be, what, 129 no, 126, no, 120, around the 126 to 130 pound mark. So still a lot of money, and you know, I'm assuming he probably got the album on CD as well. He didn't show any CDs in that video. And with the Lottery Winners, I mean, that was more kind of almost the way it came across to me with the Lottery Winners album, and I've forgotten what that's called now. I'll put it on screen. That seemed more like a kind of fun fan campaign after a while. You know, how many different versions can we release, and you know, how many of these will you buy? And I think, you know, the most expensive one is always, with any act, it's going to be the vinyl, it's going to be the LP. But I think with the Lottery Winners, you know, probably their most expensive variant on vinyl was probably not too much more than maybe 25, pushing £30 at a guess. With Taylor Swift, I mean, you know, it seems like these albums are starting at around the 40, 41, 42 pound mark, depending on where you shop. And if you go to HMV, then they're 50 quid each. It's a lot when you get in the same thing every time, but just a different colour. And is it necessary? No, I don't think it is. It's fun to collect, you know, and if you can afford it, you know, I'm always a great believer in, if you've got the money and, you know, you've paid your bills, you've budgeted for the month or whatever it is, then whatever you've got left over, you use it to enjoy yourself. And if you enjoy buying multiples of the one album, then fair enough, I've got no qualm with that. And as I say, I've certainly got no qualm with Martin. I think he's a nice guy. The money he spends on records puts even me to shame. I know he went on holiday recently and bought extra, seemingly because he was just checking out some record shops on his holidays, but even so, he still tends to buy an awful lot. But then again, so do I. But I don't, you know, even my very favourite bands, like, I mean, New Order, I haven't put anything out since a single that came out a couple of years or so back. I've got that on multiple variants, although one of them I think I bought after the fact quite a bit. And Rammstein, I did buy their album, their most recent album, Zeit, on special edition CD and special edition clear vinyl the day it came out. Well, pre-ordered it and it arrived on release day or the day after. But, you know, if I was going to do a Martin about it, I would have bought the normal CD, which would have been 3. I would have bought the black vinyl, that's 4. And there was even a cassette version. In fact, there were 2 cassette versions, actually. There was a clear cassette and a black cassette. That takes Rammstein's last album up to 6. You know, do I need 6 copies of an album? No. I don't need 2 copies of it, really. I do like to have 2 different copies. You know, the CD I can stick on, it's easy. Don't need to get up and change sides or even change the disc, because they're all, the vinyl editions are at least 2 LPs worth. There'll be some Rammstein fans out there who'll have wanted, who'll have needed, and I say that with extreme inverted commas, who will have needed all 6 variants, and I'm not including the digital download there either, so, you know, that makes it 7, but I'm talking about physical media here, really. So just for argument's sake, 6 different versions, and I'm worrying now I'm forgetting one. I seem to recall there may have been a different, like a bluish vinyl version that was an exclusive to somewhere, which would have made it 7. I don't know. It gets to be too much of a muchness, really. And it got me to thinking about another point that I'd not really thought about until today, really. And I suppose that was the impetus for making this video. But is it good for the environment, all these vinyl pressings? Now, I want to go on record and say now, you know, I love the fact that vinyl is still on an upswing, that the revival is gathering steam, and that more people are getting into record collecting and listening to music that way. I've never been a big fan of streaming. I have recently signed up to a paid streaming service, but that's more kind of for my own benefit regarding being able to listen to music when I'm out and about and when I'm walking and things like that. It's more of a means to an end, really. I don't use it to listen to whole albums. So I do like the fact that the vinyl revival seems to be having no full stop. This year's Record Store Day was apparently the most successful probably ever, I would have thought, but certainly people were saying it's been the most successful in many years. And there again, Taylor Swift gets the credit. That's another thing, that I think it was a live album that Taylor Swift brought out for Record Store Day. That was so high priced compared to the others, like all the other Record Store Day stuff. I mean, I know it varies a lot anyway. You know, sometimes you can get an album at Record Store Day and it's sort of hovering around the £20 mark, and then another one discer from that you might want is suddenly like £30 or £35. So it does vary. But Taylor Swift, I don't know, it just seems to be a thing with her where, like, she's really expensive to collect, and I don't know. People are paying for it. I mean, she's getting the sales, the physical sales, as well as whatever digital and streaming numbers she's doing as well. But I got me thinking about the environmental impact. Vinyl, I'm no expert on how it's made, but you know, from my limited knowledge and research, it's a PVC material, and it's not exactly environmentally friendly. Now then, I'm not one of these tree huggers or you know, some sort of Greta Thunberg fanboy. You know, for rightly or wrongly, you know, she's got a lot of sensible things to say, but I know some people are dead against her. I'm not getting bogged down in any of that stuff now. With all the recent Just Stop Oil protests and stuff, you have to remember, I mean, what is PVC made out of? Well, it's a type of plastic. Plastic is something that we're all supposed to be reducing in our lives, you know. They've done away with plastic straws, at fast food restaurants, plastic containers, stuff like that. You know, everything seems to be coming in kind of like paper/cardboard or like a, you know, almost like a wood type container now. To minimise environmental impact and for future generations, that's fair enough. It takes some getting used to, depending on what the product is. But I think for certainly like packaging for food and things like that, you can't really complain. But the more vinyl records get popular, and presumably more plants are being opened around the world to press these records, is that not a bigger strain on the plastics that we're supposed to be cutting down on? Doesn't that mean we're using more plastics than when we were perhaps not listening to vinyl very much, sort of 15 years ago? Now, you can get recycled vinyl. I think the only recycled vinyl in my collection that I know for certain is recycled is the Enya Box of Dreams set, because it was advertised as such as being eco-friendly. So that's been recycled from, you know, PVC that's probably not been used in the music industry previous, but it's been used for something else. It's been recycled and remade into vinyl records, and they sound good as well. So there is compromises out there that recyclable vinyl can be used, but I still think it send a better message really as to kind of like be more environmentally friendly, and it would kill two birds with one stone as well, if these artists like Taylor Swift and the lottery winners, and you know, so that I'm not singling out acts that Martin Harris has been collecting a lot of, Rammstein as well for my part, and you know, even some New Order stuff I know has come out, you know, maybe once too often. I think it'd kill two birds with one stone really, because if the artists and the record labels and the pressing plants just all had some sort of agreement where they would only release maybe a maximum of so many different variants, obviously still do your different formats, you know, your CD, your vinyl, and because they're a little bit of a kitsch sort of novelty now, rather than anything anyone wants to listen to, but although I do like listening to them myself, a cassette, you know, have three, you know, those three, and maybe a colour variant of a vinyl record, unless you're a really serious artist and you only believe in black vinyl for whatever boring reason. But you know, maybe there should be a limit on how many different formats, and then not only does it reduce any environmental impact, because you know, obviously eco-friendly vinyl isn't used all the time, otherwise I think we'd know about it. If every single record we were buying brand new now was recycled, I think, you know, there'd be a lot more spoken about it. But also it'd save us, the consumer, money, wouldn't it? And then there's also knock-on effects as well, like save people space. If you live somewhere and you've got a massive amount of room and you can just buy thousands of records, then great, good for you. I struggle so much to find room for mine living in such a small place. Yeah, I think certainly the effect that all this multi-formatting is having on our wallets, you know, our bank balances, our credit card bills, is something that is a personal thing, and if you're happy with the money you're spending, be it a lot or a little, on music, then great, that's your business, it's not mine. What I spend is my own business, obviously. But I think, especially with that, like Taylor Swift, and it probably sounds like I'm singling her out ultimately in this video, you know, she's got to have a lot of young fans, and, you know, young fans maybe getting into vinyl, maybe even the record players, a crappy Crosley or something that costs less than the Taylor Swift album that's doing the rounds at £50 a pop on HMV. They might be like, oh, well, I want all of them, and it's, you know, it's kind of, I don't know if it's teaching young people or kids, to put it broadly, the right message that, oh, you're a fan of Taylor Swift, you need all these formats, because it's just too expensive, and kids, like school kids, certainly would be, you know, relying on pocket money and whatever, and we are supposedly in a cost of living crisis, at least in the UK anyway. And also, should we be buying all that vinyl, that PVC, that plastic, when we aren't sure if it's recycled? Just my thoughts anyway. I mean, let me know what you think in the comments. I wanted to do this video to sort of get a bit of a conversation going, really. You know, it's nice to see all the threads and stuff and contest entries on the VC on YouTube, but it's also, I think, good to just sort of sit down and have a bit more of a serious chat. And as I say, I'm not judging anyone. You know, I urge you to go check Martin out first and foremost, because I really rate his content. You know, I think he's just got a really good, warm and natural way of presenting his record collection and his music collection on his channel. But just his purchasing habits have been at the forefront of my mind, particularly recently, with the whole Lottery Winners album shebang, and you know, this sort of multi-formatting of the same album from Taylor Swift, and at a high price as well. I have spent £50 or thereabouts on a 3 LP brand new release not too long ago. I think it was actually the Erasure Neon Live album, actually, was the last one I bought that was 3 LPs worth, and I'm thinking about it, I think that was actually £55. But that was just one edition. You know, if Erasure had released like a black edition and then another coloured edition to make it at least 3, then yeah, some fans with a lot of disposable income might have approved of that, but I wouldn't have, and Erasure aren't a band I'd double up on anyway. But let me know what you think anyway. This might have been a bit of a ramble, and my thoughts have been all over the place, but I want to do this sort of video. I think it's a little bit different from the norm. It's more conversational, and hopefully I'll get some interesting feedback from you lot in the comments. But thank you for watching. Probably some things that I've forgot to touch upon here, but I'd like to think I'd do another video like this. You know, if you've got any sort of burning issues relating to record collecting, music collecting, the music industry that you'd like me to talk about, and you know, if you leave them in the comments, then I'll have a look, and if it's something that I kind of think is worth discussing and giving my opinions on, then I will do more videos like this in the future, if that's what people want. I want to say special thanks to all my wonderful subscribers and generous patrons. You already know all the look in the description stuff, so I won't bother with that today. But I'm going to go now, and I do hope that all of you will join me again next time for my next vinyl community discussion video. Cheers, everyone. See ya!